following is a presentation analyzing the sexual misconducts within the RCMP and the circumstances that condoned them. By Colin Archer, Augustine Van Zyl, Erica Hiltz, Jackson Gibson, and Mike Lee. The RCMP has a long and proud history in Canada. Formed in May 1873 as the Northwest Mounted Police, the RCMP has become the prominent police force in Canada. With tradition comes culture, and unfortunately some aspects of the RCMP's culture have been harmful. The traditional male embodiment of the police officer has been cause for resistance to the progress of women as officers. These resistances have manifested as sexual harassment and assaults towards women within the organization. These instances have become very public within the last 4 years, showing significant harm to the women victimized by these events. These events appear to be an institutional failure reinforced by many years of a patriarchy-based system rather than localized events. While many have gone public since, a former member of the RCMP, Corporal Catherine Galliford, was the first to garner serious media.
Catherine Galliford, who became known to Canadians coast to coast, spoke exclusively with CBC News, explaining her claim that she was sexually harassed on the job for years.
Galliford insists ever since she graduated in 1991, she faced sexual advances from some senior officers.
If I had a dime for every time one of my bosses asked me to sit on his knee, I'd be on a yacht in the Bahamas right now. He said to me once, "I don't know what I like more about you, your eyes or your mouth. Come here, Kate, sit on my knee."
Galliford says in the command and control structure of the RCMP, you do what you're told or you get in trouble. So she changed jobs.
I started to normalize the harassment because I didn't know what else to do. And then it just got to the point after I had about 16 years of service that I broke. I completely broke.
Once public, rather than rectifying the issues, the RCMP downplayed and dismissed much of the allegations. This led to further harm of the victims, ranging from post-traumatic stress disorder to substance abuse.
The way her employer has handled it afterwards is likely to have had a greater effect on her present mental state than what she went through initially.
Acceptance of sexual harassment seems to permeate throughout the organization. Cover-ups and manipulations are not uncommon in order to maintain the top-down culture of male dominance. Even when guilt has been established, punishment is often a slap on the wrist, and promotions have even been known to follow.
Our investigation into allegations of sexual harassment at the RCMP has now reached the top level of the force. CBC News has obtained a statement of claim that alleged that one of the candidates shortlisted to be the next commissioner interfered with an investigation of Sergeant Robert Blundell, an undercover Mountie who was sued for sexual misconduct. Natalie Clancy updates the story that she broke for us right here Monday. Natalie.
Well, Peter, we have heard from dozens of Mounties now, and tonight many say the case that angers them most is the alleged cover-up and promotion of Robert Blundell.
Well, I get goosebumps because I just get so filled with, I guess, rage almost that these things happen.
Sandra Kelly left the RCMP because of how women were treated. She's outraged to learn the lengths senior management allegedly went to cover up the kind of harassment that forced her out.
If you complain, you're blacklisted.
Krista Carlet is one of 4 women who complained about Robert Blundell, and according to this statement of claim, were punished with threats and intense harassment.
I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress as a result.
This claim says as a direct result of Germans' interference, no hearing was held and a controversial plea bargain was struck, docking Blundell just a day's vacation pay.
After being disciplined, he was promoted. So, that sends a real message both to, rank and file RCMP officers, but also senior managers who might think, well, I don't have to change my behavior.
I joined the RCMP in 1989. I was a single mom on welfare, and I joined with the hopes of having a great career and making a better life for my daughter. The first few months were relatively fine. I really enjoyed the general public, working with the public. But after a while, there was some changes in the detachments, and new officers came in, and that's when the name calling began. And we're trained to sort of accept what's, in training, the corporals are the boss, and you never challenge the command. So I was quite leery about telling my boss, my supervisor, also the same person who was doing my assessment, to stop calling me certain names that were rather derogatory.
Can you repeat what the names are?
Well, the names were, he called me, he and another officer referred to me as beaver or raisin tits.
Oh, God, okay.
And so that was that was very humiliating, not only in the office, but also on the radio, when other officers from different detachments were in town. And when I was in general public, they would...
I have never been anti-RCMP. So when I came forward to talk about what happened to me, I was against the fact that I had no one to go to. We don't have a union. We don't have any official representatives. I made the mistake of going to health services, and that made my problems worse. And I realized that I had no other option than to retain a lawyer. And I'm finding more and more people are in that situation. And when the RCMP came out with their notice of defense after I filed my lawsuit, I was surprised that they tried to paint a negative picture of me, but I didn't expect anything else from them, because that tends to be their pattern. If you criticize the RCMP, they are going to come back and criticize the complainant. But I was actually very pleased that they came out with a response as quickly as they did, because I have girlfriends who filed lawsuits before I did, and they were still waiting for the RCMP to respond to them.
Women in the RCMP have been pushed to emotional labor to deal with the sexual harassment they are often subjected to. Surface acting becomes a coping mechanism to repress feelings of condescension and humiliation caused by their work environment.
We were never encouraged to speak to each other about what we were going through, about the abuse and about the harassment. And then if we did try to speak about it, we were shushed. I experienced harassment from day one in the RCMP. So I was a constable. I was harassed by another constable initially. I was harassed by a senior officer. Throughout my career, I was experiencing different levels of harassment. And I, as a constable or a corporal, can't complain about someone with a higher rank, because they're, number one, senior in rank. They have friends who are also very senior in rank. And so what would happen to me is, regardless of whether or not my harassment complaint was founded, I would be labeled. And I would probably never be promoted again. I would face even more severe harassment in the workplace. And this is why so many people who are being harassed in the workplace ask to be transferred to a different province. But what happens when you're transferred to a different province is that whatever happened to you in your first province will follow you to the next province. So whoever you made angry in the first province is going to phone your new bosses and tell them whatever it is they want to tell them. So whatever transpired will follow you throughout your career.
You think that the new act that's been presented, that's now at committee in Ottawa, is going to help women complain and get rid of harassers in the RCMP?
No.
Why not?
Because I think that when Commissioner Paulson spoke of ridding the RCMP of bad apples, I think he was speaking about the whistleblowers and the complainers. And I'm seeing it happen right now to many of my friends. And they're very afraid of Bill C-42, because there are already works in progress that they're experiencing where they either have to go back to work and go back into the harassing work environment, or they're going to be medically discharged.
The RCMP has made some efforts to change perceptions of women in the organization. They have recently joined with toy producer Mattel, making an RCMP Barbie for the Dolls of the World collection. While this is a small step in changing perception of women as RCMP officers, small steps are better than no steps at all. Furthermore, Deputy Commissioner Craig Callens has initiated an investigation committee of 100 officers to formally investigate the issues surrounding the allegations. The investigation will target underlying problems using a focus group of 400 women in the RCMP. Although it will take time and effort, the RCMP may be able to fix the underlying problems in the organization and proudly represent Canada once more.